There are major opportunities, and I think many of them have been highlighted today. The growing investment in higher education in Africa is really amazing. Sometimes we talk about only government investment, but in Uganda, for example, that is my country, I believe private sector investment far outweighs government investment. That is often not factored in. Uganda has become an education destination, not because of government-funded institutions, but because of private senior secondary schools and universities that have come up. People have seen this opportunity in the region, and they are saying that education is not simply about development. Education is also good business, and that has been proved in Uganda. We have seen more and more connectivity in terms of fiber coming to the region, both international and local. We have seen investment in national fiber backbones, and therefore prices have been coming down. You now find that in South Africa they are paying just above $100 for what they were paying $2,000 for about 3 years ago. In Zambia, in the center of Africa, they still pay $7,000 a megabit, which is really staggering. But this is the reality. Kenya, I believe they are down to $300. And therefore, this typical change is beginning to create a difference within Africa. Just to illustrate, we are not really short of fiber. And I want to make this very categorically clear. I'm just giving some quick examples here. We are not short of fiber, but we have got quite often disabling policy and regulation that mean this fiber cannot come competitively onto the market. Where this has opened up, things have improved. That's a map we have been generating in the Alliance so that we can show that there's a rich existence of fiber within the continent. Combine that with the rich existence of fiber coming in, and you can start creating a difference. And again, just to illustrate, that is Tanzania. It has got 96 fiber pairs extending across the country and toward the borders. And never mind that it is not yet exploited, and this is because it was approached as infrastructure. Those are the challenges, but the fiber is in place. Kenya is different. They're fully exploiting what they put in place. What I've shown here is the Kenya Educational Network, which is the trust which I was talked about this morning, and how they're exploiting the existence of both national and commercial fiber to ensure that they reach all their universities. And South Africa, one of the most advanced, where government put in a 10 gigabit backbone to ensure that all universities have got high-speed access equal to another university anywhere else in the world. And these are the things that are beginning to create a difference. If we can bring all this on the market, then things really start happening. Of course, there are many challenges. One of them has been talked about throughout today, the lack of integrated and holistic approaches. And this is both institutional and it is national. I've worked in initiating ICT in a university, so I know what that means. I've worked at the national level in trying to change the environment. I know what that means. So quite often we focus on the technology. And as a telecom engineer, I always tell people that, you know what, ICT has got nothing to do with the technology. It's about the higher level benefits you can derive from it. And therefore, if you don't plan for those benefits in advance, you find that your investment is totally wasted. So technology, without the higher level aspirations and consciousness, without the strategies to exploit it, becomes a waste of resources. Of course, policy and regulation are a challenge. You work across 23 different countries in Eastern and Southern Africa. Crossing a border can impose a 500% jump on cost, and that's because the people on both sides of the border will conspire. And therefore, we are lobbying for a situation where national research and education networks, understanding their role in transforming the entire education sector, can be recognized and given space as a continental player. Our current operations just show that something's actually going, and we must appreciate Cisco. They gave us our first router, which we placed in London. And in London, because it was the most convenient and cheapest location, it could not be done else on this African beautiful continent of ours. It was just too expensive. The peering and so on were a challenge. The authorization. So we actually meet in London, which is rather stupid if you think about it. So Professor Kiyamba, I know you are here and you have got influence. Please talk to your colleagues who want to meet in Africa, not to escape Africa so that we can meet cheaply outside. But the point is we are now interconnected at high capacity through Giant, the European network. We have got a 20 gigabits per second connection. We have got a Telnet coming in, Knet and Tanet, and others are following suit in very short order. All this change has been in the last 18 to 24 months. So it is actually major change as far as Africa is concerned. Why Giant? Because it is our gateway to the rest of the world. The European network is interconnected with all the other networks around the world, and I've got agreements with GIAN so that our traffic can transit the European network and go to any part of the world and back and forth. And therefore, those networks which connect to us are now globally connected to the rest of the global research and education community. I should highlight one last the newest initiative before I conclude, and that is Africa Connect. We have been lobbying the European Union for quite some time, and sometime in May this year, a formal contract was signed of about 15 mega euros, 80% funded by EUC, 20% by us, and working on that with support of our governments, we believe, so that we can this time focus on regional networking. Let me make this very clear. The focus is regional networking. 5 years ago, the concern was international connectivity. Our members have addressed that on their own, and therefore the only concern now is regional networking. This project, running for 4 years, is going to be a major step in terms of what we want to achieve. So I've got a planning phase which is running right now, planning, capacity building, because capacity is a challenge at all levels, so that we have got the right human resource that can handle both the technical, the managerial, and the strategic issues in terms of applying ICT to change. And then starting sometime in about 9 to 12 months, the operational phase will start. Now we're already operational as an organization. We've got an operating network, but we're talking about having effective cross-border connectivity, having regional collaborations across the borders rather than meeting in Europe. The progress to date, like I said, is mostly planning at this moment in time. We believe that within 9 months, the first maybe cross borders will be laid out so that we start transferring our meeting point from London to somewhere, who knows, maybe in Kenya, maybe in Tanzania, maybe in Uganda and South Africa. And according to our backbone vision, this should actually be in each of the capitals of Africa, so that we have got layer 2 connectivity to all those places, and I've got layer 3 points of presence in all the major cities. That then makes global connectivity very easy for all concerned. We believe governments, and this is part of the title, can unlock this potential. Let me state that it's not the shortage of fiber. In many cases, it is the environment which is stopping progress. Regulation and policy, crossing borders, these are things that are within the capacity of African governments to address. I submit that we don't need an international partner to come in to tell us what is sensible, because the fiber is there. Countries have rolled out national fiber backbones which are sitting idle, so the fiber is there. The power companies, the gas companies, the oil companies are rolling out fiber all over the continent, so the fiber is actually there. If policy and regulation can be addressed. We believe that our governments have got the ability. I know we sometimes think we are poor. I believe it is a question of priorities. In my own country, I can talk about some of the expenditures and say that about 10% of that expenditure would have been more than enough to address the challenge. I don't think we've got a right to ask others to reduce expenditure on defense and fund us if we also spend as much on defense in an environment where we cannot really afford it. So I've got a challenge here. So colleagues, the ministers who are here, this is something that can be addressed. When that is addressed, we believe that as national research and education networks, we'll then have the space to play our rightful role, because we've been doing it in very difficult circumstances. And if we can achieve some success in those circumstances, then given the right environment, we can do much, much more. Now, one of my colleagues cited Nelson Mandela. I think Mandela is big enough to be cited several times in the same forum. And he said that we know that we have it in ourselves as Africans to change all this. We must assert our will to do so. We must say there's no obstacle big enough to stop us from bringing about an African Renaissance. Thank you very much.